It is the first day of the second week of Preptober for the 2018 NaNoWriMo, and this is the video that I promised on how to do character sheets if you want to do them the way that I do them. Like I mentioned, I am fairly bare bones on my character sheets, so you're welcome to add or subtract from how I do these or ignore it entirely, as you please. I'm just going to go over what I have on my character sheets and how I fill them out with examples from a character sheet that I filled out earlier for one of my side protagonists that I have in my current outline. So we're going to hop right into that, and I'm going to walk through the different things that I have on these character sheets. So the first thing I have at the top, which is pretty similar to most people's character sheets, I think, is I get a photo of what I imagine that character pretty much looking like. Or sometimes I'll put multiple photos, like 2 or 3, if I can't seem to find a photo on Google of somebody who looks pretty much exactly like the person that I have in mind. Like one person looks similar, but they don't have glasses or something. Or one person has a smile like what I imagine this person having, but their eyes are all wrong or something. And I'll do that so that I can get a good picture in my head. Now, I end up with a little bit of a Frankenstein thrown together thing sometimes that way if I can't find just one image that matches what I imagine them looking like. But you know what? It works. So that's the first thing I do, and I have a spot on there for a picture. I'm going to show you a picture of what I put on this one. It's Natalie Portman. I'm sorry, but she just looks exactly like I imagine this character looking, because this character doesn't have any hair, and Natalie Portman is one of the actresses that has all the facial shapes and stuff that I could find that is also somebody who has no hair. So I'm going to put a picture of who I or what I picked on my character sheet right here. Okay, the next section that I have on my character sheets is a spot for name, appearance, role, and heritage. These are things that I find useful. Now you can change those to other things that you find more useful, but I always put the name. In this case, I have Janaya Christanos as my character's name, and her heritage, I have her as Greek/other because they'd probably be, my thing's set very far in the future, so I'm pretty sure everybody's going to be mixed by that point. But she's mostly from Greece. And her role is she's a side protagonist, and her role in the society I also put as she's the orchestrator of care. So that's a title that she has in the story. And then under appearance, I have it as no hair, hazel eyes, fair skin, long, slender neck, beauty marks on her face, wide lips, and delicate features listed on the sheet. And that's what I have under that section. Now you can go as in-depth with each of these things as you'd like, or you can just ignore them entirely if you don't feel like they're important for you to have on your character sheet. The next section I have on my character sheet, which is probably the part that I find most helpful in figuring out how my characters are going to act in the story, if I find that I'm getting stuck or they're not acting like I expected them to. If I have these things nailed down, it really helps. And this is their good qualities, their flaws, and their habits. Now you can take these as you like, but I put good qualities as like personality traits, like the desirable personality traits this person has. Now, if they're a villain, you can still do good qualities that they have. You just might do something like they're very charismatic, or put their strengths, even if they're not necessarily like good qualities, like, but maybe they're very good at being charismatic, or getting people to do what you want them to do. So they're gifted at manipulation or something like that. So you can get that as a strength. It doesn't necessarily have to be that it's their good quality. It's just stuff that they're good at. And in this case, I have this character listed as she's honest, compassionate, and self-sacrificing. And her flaws I have listed as she's naive, she's incapable of believing that anybody else is truly evil, and she's kind of rebellious. So like when people tell her, hey, this is the right thing to do, if she doesn't believe that, she's gonna be like, nah, I'm not doing it your way type thing. And then her habits is she tends to speak very passionately about things she believes in. She's got very giddy and excited speech patterns when she gets into stuff. And she tends to smile incessantly. So she's kind of like overly optimistic. And that's that for that section. You'll be able to see what this looks like. I will put up a picture at the end of this of what the whole thing looks like when it's filled in, as well as the sections here along the way. The next thing that I have is a brief summary of their background. And you can kind of do that however you want in here, but how I define the background is really what happened that led them up to being involved in this story. How did they get to this story where they now find themselves in? And in this case, I wrote that now, this is going to be out of context because you're not going to know what I have outlined for my other 2 books that are supposed to come before this story. But it's her parents were part of the group that escaped when the amphibians first evolved, and they helped found the city. She was born there in the city and has never seen the surface world. She is the orchestrator of care for the city. Her duties involve arranging and overseeing the care of orphans, elderly, and the sick and injured. This explains why everybody loves her, and it would be such an upstart if she were to be murdered. And if you don't like spoilers, we're not getting into that. It's very sad. But this is also why when Nick is her brother, by the way, so you have some context, brings Zyla, which is our main protagonist, to her. He takes Zyla to Janaya for living arrangements when she first arrives in the city, because this would be really right in Janaya's wheelhouse of duties, and because she's very caring and very optimistic and very much cares about just helping everybody. She would be exactly the right kind of person for Nick to take Zyla to. So that kind of her background and her role, her choice of profession really fits in with the character traits that we previously established, which is part of the point of these character sheets, really, is making sure that everything fits and makes sense. And if you know your plot already, you might be able to spot where there's flaws. Like, for example, I originally put one of her flaws as being she's not good at gauging the tone of a room. Like, she's like, if it's kind of a sad occasion or people are pissed off in the room, like she might come in being all bubbly and stuff, and I'm like, wait a minute, if she's involved in politics whatsoever and she's got herself this prestigious position doing this thing, she would have some ability to be able to gauge this. So I'm like, that flaw doesn't work, so I got rid of that flaw. So you'll see how you can make everything just a little bit more cohesive by doing character sheets and not maybe writing yourself into a corner with a character because you overlooked aspects of their personality or how they would react to things. The next section that I have in here is for wants, needs, and methods. And what I have listed is her want is that she wants everyone and everything to be fair, right, and just, and struggles to understand why it isn't. Now, I added a little bit on there that doesn't really go with the want, but I wanted that for clarification, which goes along with bend it however you want, take notes wherever you want, knit that pertains to it, makes sense, so that you get a good feel for your character. That's the point of this. Under needs, she needs to keep her citizens and her guests safe. That's something very strongly that she needs. The other thing that she needs, which isn't a need that she has the beginning of the story, it's a need that develops, is she develops the need for people on the surface to understand that they're not all bad. down there, and that her people are actually good people, and just because there's one jerk or a couple of jerks that are violent and awful, please don't label the rest of us as this. We're actually good people, and I really hope that you don't hate us because this other person did this terrible thing. And then methods. The methods she would choose to use is what I mean by methods, to attain her needs or wants. Now, the methods she would usually use is diplomacy, reason, and if need be, self-sacrifice. I mean, this is somebody who would be willing to take a bullet for her beliefs, but she would never sacrifice somebody else towards her beliefs. She would very much take the responsibility and dive in. And then I have another little thing which for me is important, but you can totally ignore it if you're not feeling it. I put song at the bottom. So I put multiple songs or one particular song that I feel really makes me feel in the mindset of that character. And for this particular character, I chose the song Bleeding Out by Imagine Dragons. And like, it was so weird because I originally picked it just because of this one detail in the song. And then the more I listened to the song, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like this whole song is like a script for like this character's, like every action in this character's role that I have outlined. And I'm like, that's so creepy, but I love it. But I have that there. And then for other characters, I have other songs, and I have multiple songs for other characters that really kind of show different aspects of their personality and how they think, and I think gets me in the right mindset. Now, that is actually the end of my character sheet. Like I mentioned, I am not super in-depth. I'm pretty bare bones on these. This is usually the extent of what I feel like I need on characters. It kind of depends on what kind of story I'm telling, what kind of character we're dealing with. So you're really going to want to be flexible and kind of switch things around on your character sheets. If you're making your own, or if you choose to use the ones that I made available on my website at cswellswrites.com, you're welcome to download those. It's just a Word document on the worksheets and tools option. And you can go with that. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and put up an image of what the completed sheet looks like on my end. Please forgive any typos and stuff. It's very, very rough. I threw it together in like less than a half hour. And a good portion of that time was spent like trying to figure out one last flaw for her to have. So anyway, that's it for me. I'm going to let you go. I hope you guys enjoyed, and you have a great one. Bye-bye.